About a month ago, I made a video on the DKC Any% speedrun, a run that involves a number of skips and glitches to bypass most of the game so that speedrunners can beat it in less than 8 minutes. But for some reason, a lot of viewers were not impressed by this speedrun category, as they considered it cheating to beat the game by skipping the majority of it. Respectively, I disagree. The Any% category is just one of many different DKC speedruns. So what about a category that doesn't skip the majority of the game? What about a category that involves playing every single stage? This is the DKC All Stages category. It still involves a lot of crazy glitches, and I do mean crazy, and I'm going to attempt to break it all down in this video. But before I do, I just want to thank Lovebird920, the current world record holder in this category, for allowing me to use their game footage in this video. You'll know it's their footage because the bird here. Now, let's get back those bananas. So, even though this video is covering the all stages category, I will not be going through every single stage. While impressive to watch, I want to focus on all the cool glitches and strategies utilized in the run, starting with the funky barrel start. This glitch allows players to start the game in a funky barrel on the world map. All you have to do is press start and down on the cranky screen within 30 frames, assuming you're playing version 1.0. This roughly saves 1.2 seconds on the run, as the funky barrel is faster on the overworld compared to DK. The funky barrel start was first realized in 2020, but fun fact, was accidentally discovered several years before by a runner named Izin, before speedrunners figured out why it's a thing. Now, if you ever watched any DKC speedrun, you'll notice how speedrunners constantly roll their way through the stages, and that's because rolling is much faster than running or jumping. For one, rolling does a better job of getting rid of enemies, but not only that, for each enemy you roll through, you can increase the roll speed to a max value, as long as you're holding down the Y button. You can also increase the duration of the roll by letting go of the Y button before an enemy, and then doing a repress of the Y button shortly after to extend the roll time. This is known as the extended roll, or extendo. These extended rolls are also what allows speedrunners to cross much wider gaps, or skip slow-moving obstacles that the game expects you to use, like ropes and tire platforms, and are one of the main speed strategies for DKC. Then there's the float storage. Float storage is not a flashy trick or glitch, but it changed the movement a lot in the game, as it's a rolling technique that allows you to stay airborne longer when either rolling or running off a ledge. The technique was first discovered in 2022 by speedrunner SilentWolf444, and is most used to roll over gaps that were either inconsistent or even impossible otherwise. To store the float, you need to hold B in certain scenarios, like from after doing a max height jump, being shot out of a barrel, or entering a stage, and continue holding B all the way until you roll or run off a ledge. If you let go of B at any point before making it over whatever gap you're trying to get over with float storage, you won't receive the additional airtime. I can't stress enough how important rolling is in these DKC speedruns. It's also important to highlight that DK and Diddy do not play the same. DK was designed to be a fighter, as he can kill big enemies in one hit, and has an additional ground slapping attack which Diddy doesn't have. Diddy was designed to be lighter and faster, so he can jump higher and roll faster compared to DK. For example, going back to extended rolls, both DK and Diddy will reach the same max speed by rolling through 4 enemies, but Diddy's initial rolling max speed and speed after rolling through 1, 2, and 3 enemies is always faster. Naturally, this makes Diddy the preferred Kong to use in speedruns, and so playing with DK is avoided as much as possible. But DK does have one big advantage over Diddy in this run. If you don't know, there are well-hidden barrels in some of the early stages of the game that act as quick shortcuts through most of the stage, and these are known as warp barrels. For example, in stage 2-2, Minecart Carnage, instead of jumping into the barrel to reach the minecart, you can just jump over the barrel, and if you're hugging the left side of the wall, you'll hit the warp barrel and be dropped back into the stage near the end. Another great example is 2-4, Stop and Go Station, where all you have to do is go back through the door the Kongs entered at the very start of the stage to activate the warp barrel. There are 7 warp barrels in total, and you already know that speedrunners take advantage of all of them. But what you might not know, and where DK's advantage over Diddy comes into play, is that 3 of the warp barrels can only be entered by DK, or at least that's the game's intention. If you watch the run in full, this is why you'll sometimes see speedrunners switch Kongs. These are the 3 stages with warp barrels that can only be entered by DK, but players have found a way to access the one in Slip Slide Ride with Diddy. The game's intention is that only DK can reach this barrel with a regular jump due to DK's bigger hitbox, But with Diddy, you can reach the barrel by performing a trick to climb above the screen while holding onto the rope. To do this, you need to jump off the rope and back onto it while holding down on the D-pad, making sure to grab onto the rope once you've jumped past the top of the screen, and to not release down, as doing so will cause you to be pushed back into the camera. And then from there, jump towards the well-camouflaged warp barrel. The warp barrels in these other two stages are even more unique, as the barrels don't exist at all if you don't have DK as your first Kong. And in Millstone Mayhem, speedrunners reach the barrel in a very interesting way. The intended way of reaching the warp barrel in this stage is using the tire, which involves backtracking. But instead, speedrunners reach the barrel by utilizing what is known as the super jump, a glitch that gives players infinite vertical height while holding down the B button, and one that allows players to reach the barrel here faster. To use a super jump, you first must store a super jump. With both Kongs, you will need to take damage and have the Kong that took damage leave the screen by jumping off the top of the screen, which typically happens when you take damage along a wall or on a slope, like here. This is when the super jump is stored. To then use the super jump, you must retrieve your second Kong, and once you have it, you'll need to once again take damage with the Kong you have in front, while making sure to hold down B afterwards. And as long as you continue to hold B, the next time you land on an enemy, either from running off a ledge onto them, or landing on them on your way down from taking damage, you will get a super jump. The super jump was first discovered in 2013 by a player named Haimu Gamer, and has been utilized in DKC speedruns ever since. Then, there's the glitch known as the jump roll, a glitch discovered much earlier than the super jump, and one that is also utilized in many DKC runs. The jump roll is an infinite horizontal flying trick that is performed by starting a roll on the same frame that you bounce on an enemy. To do this, you will need to be in a situation where you can bounce on an enemy while still on the ground, the most common situation being when an enemy is right next to a ledge. The key is to press the Y button while on the same frame that you land on the enemy, and yes, it's frame perfect, and then immediately release the button. This causes the game to bug out, and will have the Kong spinning in the air as if they were just shot out of a barrel cannon, and will continue indefinitely until you cancel it by jumping, touching the ground, or hitting an object that takes over control of the Kongs, like a minecart or barrel. What's cool about this glitch is while performing it, you are immune to all enemies. Well, except for mincers, zingers, and manky barrels. The earliest known documented instance of a jump roll being used is from a 101% Taz run from 2004. Back then, this glitch was only known to be done at this spot in Tanked Up Trouble, until a year later in 2005, when a Tazer known as Arnie the Great used the glitch in Minecart Madness. It wasn't until sometime in 2007 or 2008 that another Tazer, known as Tompa, accidentally performed a jump roll in Orangutan Gang, while in a netplay session with Arnie the Great, triggering them to instantly look for other spots in the game where the glitch can be used. In the All Stages run, the jump roll is most utilized in Tanked Up Trouble and Minecart Madness, but was also historically used in platform Perils. It only became obsolete in this stage when a new glitch was legalized in early of 2020, which I'll talk about a bit later. Speaking of Minecart Madness, there's another cool glitch that is performed in this stage. If you enter the cart without jumping, and then take damage from the first necky here, the game will think you're on land, even though you're in the air. And so you're free to jump and roll around in the air, which speedrunners do to get through the stage faster. Now, I have a question for you. What do you get when you combine super jumps with jump rolls? You get super jump rolls, duh. As the name suggests, this glitch combines the super jump glitch and the jump roll glitch, and allows players to fly over entire levels at a much faster rate compared to just a super jump. To perform a super jump roll, you store a super jump as previously explained, but instead of simply landing on an enemy, you need to initiate a jump roll off an enemy. What's cool is that while in a super jump roll state, you can extendo and roll through enemies to gain more speed, like in any other traditional roll. It wasn't until 2016 when this glitch was first discovered in a Tazzing stream by Tompa of the stage Forest Frenzy. During the stream, a viewer by the name of Rainbow Sprinkles suggested in the chat that Tompa try jump roll with the super jump in storage. Tompa tried it, and to their surprise, it worked. Since then, the super jump roll glitch blew up the DKC speedrunning community, as there are many stages this glitch is used to save a massive amount of time. Over the last few years, some of the super jump rolls were replaced by other tricks, which I'll be discussing in this video, but the current all stages world record uses them in Snow Barrel Blast, Rope Bridge Rumble, and Oil Drum Alley. A super jump roll can also be used in Temple Tempest, but it's more difficult to pull off, as it's not only frame perfect, the frame perfectness coming from pressing the Y button on the same frame that you land on the naughty, but also pixel perfect because of the hitbox of this ledge. It makes the naughty start falling at a weird place, so where you are in relation to the ledge, aka pixel-wise, matters when hitting the frame on the naughty. It also requires you to do a damageless super jump roll in the previous stage, so that you have both Kongs entering Temple Tempest. This strategy was only recently accomplished in a world record run by Lovebird920, and speedrunners believe this strategy will be a big deal in future all stages runs. Now, if you're tired of hearing about glitches involving rolls, then I'm so sorry, because the next glitch I'm going to talk about is the super free roll. This glitch is believed to have been discovered in 2018 and replaced the super jump roll previously used in Forest Frenzy and Misty Mine. It's essentially the super jump roll, but without the frame perfect jump roll, hence the name suggesting it's a free trick. All you need to do is get a regular super jump and then grab a stationary rope while still holding the B button. Dismount it, and then land and roll out of it, which puts you in the same state a super jump roll would. The problem with this glitch is that it can only be used in limited spaces, because it requires a rope, and can still be difficult to execute, specifically in Forest Frenzy. Getting a super jump storage here requires a pixel perfect setup, and dismounting the rope is awkward because the ground isn't directly under the rope where you need to land. So I already discussed warp barrels and how they are used to bypass most of the stages they are found in, but there are a few other strategies and glitches used to bypass 3 more stages. One of those stages is Orangutan Gang. Instead of entering the stage, speedrunners backtrack to visit the coolest Kong on the island, Funky, who operates Funky's flights and allows DK and Diddy to travel to previously completed worlds in the Funky Barrel, which speedrunners do to go back to the first world. The first world, Congo Jungle, is very unique as the 4 corners on the world map can be used to map warp, which is another glitch exclusive to version 1.0 and 1.1, and both PAL versions. While walking across the corners between the stages on the map, the game can be tricked into making you enter a stage by pressing A, B, Y, X, or Start on the same frame you reach the corner. When you reach a corner, the Kong stops in place for 1 frame. So if you are pressing a button when you reach it, the game thinks you're trying to enter a stage and puts you somewhere. These magical corners only exist in World 1, and they all send you to near the end of Orangutan Gang, with the exception of the second corner, which just takes you back to the second level. It's important to note that map warping only works with 1 Kong, as when you have 2 Kongs on the map, the Kong behind you is still moving, and so the warp won't work. Another stage is Platform Perils, and this stage is almost entirely skipped, but it's a bit more involved than just map warping. In the run, after beating Misty Mine, instead of going to the next stage, speedrunners go back to the previous stage, Manic Mincers, to set up what is known as the split up glitch. How the split up glitch works is when you throw a DK barrel with only 1 Kong and exit the stage via start and select, you interrupt the Kong's appearance. After this, getting hit at any point will cause a soft lock, as the game will permanently pause, waiting forever for the other Kong to appear. Unless you get hit over a pit, which will cause your Kong to fall below the death plane and put you back on the map screen. When this happens, the game expects your second Kong to be in control, and as a result, when you actually do get your second Kong, you will have control of both of them. At first glance, this might seem useless, but it's a very powerful glitch, and it's used to wrong warp out of Platform Perils. This is the Peril Skip, and it's the glitch I mentioned earlier that made the jump roll strategy obsolete in this stage back in 2020, and it saves about 20 seconds. It's not fully understood, but essentially, the game gets confused when you try to enter a bonus barrel with the split up glitch active, and releasing a Kong from a DK barrel at the same time. And as a result, it warps the Kongs out of the stage, thinking it was completed. It's believed this only works in Platform Perils because of the branching path it has on the world's map. There was a very contentious debate in the DKC community on whether to allow this glitch in the all stages run, as there are a few signs that the level is not technically beaten, such as not getting % credit for beating it, no fanfare, and the level/path is not complete when booting up the game again. But ultimately, the community decided to allow it. And finally, there's Elevator Antics. To skip what I would say is half of the stage, speedrunners execute what is known as Antics Blaster, a trick that is still a bit of a mystery. This trick was recently discovered in 2023 by speedrunner LeadOstrich, and replaced using the super jump roll as it saves about 10 seconds over it. There are 3 different setups for this trick. One is a safe setup that should be successful 100% of the time, but then there's the YOLO DK and YOLO Diddy setups, which have less success rates. The current world record uses the YOLO DK setup, so that's the one I will attempt to explain. After making their way through the stage with Diddy, speedrunners switch to DK to pick up the steel keg. They then throw the keg over here, only to recatch it, and then break the halfway barrel to get an invisible object. I won't get into too much detail because it is very technical, and truthfully I don't understand it, but invisible objects are created by throwing a barrel, catching it, and then crashing it into an airborne barrel. Invisible objects are very powerful, and speedrunners use them to manipulate memory IDs to help them do fun things like throw fire, or in this case, wrong warp to other places, which is what they do here after putting down the invisible object and bouncing off Neki into the blast barrel. Doing this puts you back on the world map and completes the stage. The YOLO Diddy setup has a 33% success rate, and the YOLO DK setup has a 50% success rate. And this is based on the carrying animations of the Kong as you respawn the return barrel. Diddy has 3 different frames of animation, and DK has 2 different frames, hence the 33% for Diddy and 50% for DK. And both these setups are 3 to 4 seconds faster than the safe setup. Using the YOLO Diddy or DK setup is basically the only RNG in the run. Well, except for the Neki's revenge fight, which also has some RNG due to the random spawning locations of Neki and whether his last spawn is at the top or bottom of the screen. If it's at the top, you automatically have a time loss of a handful of frames, because when he dies, he has to drop a greater distance. And while we're on the topic of boss fights, another cool boss fight to watch in this run is the really naughty Rampage fight. For whatever reason, there is collision in each of the top corners of the boss fights, which you can land on. Only the corners in this fight are useful, as they can be used to land on Naughty as early as possible, but requires a semi-precise jump onto Naughty and Arc to land up there. Now, there's one last glitch used in this run I want to cover, and this one is the craziest glitch of them all, at least to me. It's the one that I showed a clip of at the beginning, and the one shown in the video thumbnail. It's the Bird Croc Express. This glitch was tasked by Tompa a decade ago, but only recently was the RTA route made possible by LeadOstrich in 2024. First, after beating Ice Age Alley, speedrunners go back into the stage to set up the split up glitch, as it's this glitch that will get Expresso into the next stage, Croctopus Chase. Once the split up glitch is set up, they then go back into Ice Age Alley one more time to activate the glitch by breaking the DK barrel, then having DK fall into the pit, after which they jump with Diddy to mount Expresso before the screen fades out. It's important when doing this that DK doesn't fall off the ledge too quickly, because if this happens, then the camera won't pan far enough to the left to spawn the Expresso crate. For whatever reason, when both Kongs are actively controlled at the same time, and if one Kong dies while the other Kong is riding an animal buddy, the game allows you to take that animal buddy into any other stage that contains an animal buddy. Here's Engard and Winky's Walkway. But in this run, we're taking Expresso underwater. Let's hope Expresso can hold his breath long. Now, there are a few things to know about navigating a water level with Expresso. First, don't hold Y when entering the stage, as this will buffer an animal buddy attack, and because Expresso doesn't have one, the game will try to perform Rambi's attack and soft lock. Also, don't enter the stage holding right, as this will cause you to float with no gravity, which is very slow. Second, the camera in water stages is on a set track, and will only advance along the track when reaching certain coordinates. And the camera must reach the end of the stage, otherwise the stage exit won't spawn. When standing outside of the camera's frame, the camera will slowly move towards Diddy and Expresso's coordinates, if its current track allows. Jumping and running can speed up the camera's movement, but it's often not advantageous to outpace the camera too much, or you'll run out of space to help speed the camera along. Enemies will also spawn when the camera gets close to their spawn position, so when outpacing the camera by even a small amount, you can avoid most of the enemies. The setup for this glitch takes about 26 to 27 seconds, but it's worth it for speedrunners, as navigating Croctopus Chase with Expresso more than makes up that time compared to just swimming. If you want to attempt this glitch yourself, or just want to know more, then I recommend watching LeadOstrich's tutorial video on it. He breaks down the navigation of the stage, and it's fascinating. I've linked his video in the description. After using all these glitches and strategies and making their way through all the stages, the top speedrunners find themselves at the final fight of the game in around 28 minutes. A fight that is considered a glorified cutscene because of how easy it is for them. They're so optimal in this fight that they never see the crown throwing animation. But there you have it, all the crazy glitches and strategies used to beat the DKC all stages run. I want to give a huge shout out to Tompa, LeadOstrich, and Lovebird920, who helped with providing and explaining a lot of the info discussed in this video. If you want to check out Lovebird920's world record run in full, then I've linked their run in the description. And if you too want to try and get on the leaderboard, or are just interested in knowing more, then check out dkcspeedruns.com. There's loads of information there on different DKC speedruns and strats, and this site was another valuable resource in helping me make this video. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure to like and comment. It would really help us grow the channel. Thanks, and I'll catch you in the next one. I want to give a shout out to our A button mashing Patreons: Rebecca Lyons, Leburb, Puddles Megan, Koi 13, Liam Helt, and Nice Gamer Music.